Breaking news now. We'll take you straight to Toronto Pearson International Airport. We've confirmed what's being called an incident right now. Delta Airlines, this flight was arriving from Minneapolis. There's the live pictures right there. We are being told now 8 injuries. And yes, that is a Delta aircraft completely upside down. Now the question is, how did that happen?
Yeah.
What are the possible scenarios? Clearly, snow, wind, ice.
But it's astonishing to see. Let's get right to ABC transportation reporter Sam Sweeney and our aviation analyst John Nance. So, Sam, that plane is inverted, right? That's an upside-down airplane. What do we know at this hour? We are hearing 8 injured, no fatalities at this point. What are you hearing?
Terry, it's unbelievable when you look at these images now just coming in from our affiliates there. This is a CRJ 900 aircraft. It's slightly bigger than the plane that crashed at DCA just 3 weeks ago. It was arriving from Minneapolis into Toronto's Pearson Airport when it somehow, in these weather conditions, and we're learning the winds were at least 40 miles per hour, it flipped over, potentially some sort of an ice situation. The good news is that we are told, initial reports, everybody has made it out alive. There is one serious or critical injury from a passenger, several others receiving minor to mild injuries, according to the paramedics who arrived on scene. They are still working the scene, still clearing that aircraft, but they believe that everybody is off that plane safely.
My goodness.
So, all right, let's talk about possible scenarios of how this could happen, John. Clearly, we don't know. We don't have any details right now. But let's take a look at it's cold, it's windy. It's what, 17? I don't know if we can check and see what the temperature is right now. 17 degrees, I think, is what I saw. How could this happen, John? Just give some scenarios, coming in for a landing. Is it hit a windy patch and completely flips like that? I mean, it's
well,
what can you tell us?
When you're dealing with winds like this that are 27 to 35 knots all the way up to 40 miles an hour, and you've got 17 to 18 degrees out there with blowing snow and a low ceiling, you've got all the formula elements necessary for making it a very, very small area of recovery if you have something go wrong, like, for instance, a tire blowing or going off the runway. We don't have any indication of what happened here. We do know it's lost one of its wings as it sits there upside down. As Sam mentioned, it's a CRJ 900. This is one of the workhorses of what we used to call commuter aviation. This is a Delta connection, and these airplanes are working day and night everywhere. They're not fragile, but they are light. This is about a 47,000-pound airplane compared to maybe a 140,000-pound 737.
And John, have you ever seen anything like this? A plane on landing, flipping over, with apparently no fatalities here. It's. I just don't understand how it happened.
It's remarkable.
Don't the wings have the fuel tank? Shouldn't there be a fire and the rest of it?
Well, this is at the end of a flight. It was coming in from Minneapolis. It may not have had that much fuel on board. That's one thing. Secondly, our capabilities over the last 20 years in building airplanes that can withstand a tremendous amount of misuse in a landing accident and still have everybody come out alive has accelerated tremendously. And this is a state-of-the-art airplane. So unlike a situation in DCA where you had a collision and it was simply not survivable in every way, this is what we call a survivable ground accident, and we'll need to know a lot more, of course, about what exactly dynamically happened. But the winds are going to be part of this. I'll bet you anything.
So, John, a coworker of ours, her brother works within the industry, and saying there is a scenario out there, possibly that one of the main landing gears failed and the wing actually dug into the ground and flipped it. Would that make sense? Could that be a scenario here?
It could be a scenario. Of course, the prime question is why did the gear buckle or why did the gear fail? But that is possible. It's happened, as a matter of fact, just fairly recently on a private airplane that a Learjet 25 touched down and one of the main gears sheared off. Is not very often the case, and certainly not with an airliner, and certainly not with one that's built as tough as the CRJs are. But is it possible? Yes. And will we have all the information to enable the board, the Canadian board, probably with NTSB's assistance, to come to a final conclusion of what happened in all particulars? Yes, it will.
Lot of investigation ahead, and I just want to say, so the liveatc.net, and Sam, I know that this is a service that you're very familiar with. They monitor air traffic control around the country. So they have produced this brief transcript at 12:56. This airplane just crashed on 23. We just had a crash on runway 23 here, and then Tower. Just so you're aware, there's people outside walking around the aircraft there. Pilot, we got them. The aircraft is upside down and burning. I mean, the drama and the blessing that this represents is extraordinary. But Sam, what do you make of what Live ATC is putting out?
Terry, this is just one more example of how safe air transportation has become in recent years. These planes are designed to be evacuated using only half the exits in less than 90 seconds. And this appears to have what happened in this situation. Regardless, it is still miraculous when you look at these images to think that every single person on board that airplane was able to make it out relatively safely. We are aware that there are some injuries, but the good news is everyone survived. They followed the procedures of that crew. You see the emergency doors open there, and they were able to make it out safely. And for the pilot, who will be the last one off that plane, for him to get back on the radio and say everybody is out is truly unbelievable.
Sam, do we know if everybody is out of the aircraft now, even those that are injured? Are we able to confirm that there's no one inside that aircraft right now?
That's what first responders are telling us, that everybody is out of that airplane, but they continue to work that scene there. But Terry, you made a good point. The fuel is in the wings. The tail is off this plane. This just could have been so much worse. We don't see very many burn marks there on the fuselage. Of course, they're foaming the plane. It's surrounded by snow, but unbelievable. It's hard to comprehend how lucky these people are.
You know, John, I'd like to follow up with you on what Sam was reporting and observing, which is the procedures, right? We all listen to to varying degrees of attention, what the flight attendants tell us. And this shows how critical all that is, and what, I mean, I don't know how I know you've had a long flying career, but I can't imagine what's going through the pilot's mind. And then, as Sam says at the end, to be able to say, we got them all out. It's just an incredible moment.
What goes through a pilot's mind, any pilot, is to do the best you can to control the jet when it's all come to a halt. And your number one responsibility and your number one focus is going to be getting everybody safely out of there by whatever means. In this case, they're having an airplane that's upside down. Everybody's hanging from the ceiling, so to speak. And that makes it even more difficult to make sure, first of all, that you get everybody out, and second, that you can confirm that. Also consider this. This airplane had to decelerate from about 150 miles an hour to zero in order to be survivable during that period of time in order to be able to get everybody safely out. So there's a lot that went on dynamically here that I think eventually, when it's all in terms of the report, we'll find this was a result of a lot of great engineering that's gone on and changes from the days of the 727 and the 707.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I mean, the last time we saw, I guess we should say, a remarkable, pretty unbelievable landing was, Sully when he landed on the Hudson, right? And how he was able to land that plane and get everybody out. Just if you could, John, sort of put us in the pilot's mind in a scenario like this. Do you think there could have been any type of warning at all, or could this have been a scenario where it was one of those unexpected, within seconds, oh my gosh, landing gear isn't completely coming down and the plane tips and boom, the next thing you know, you roll over? Kind of, if you could, put us in the mind of a pilot, I guess, for a second in a scenario like this, and just how quickly you have to react.
Well, a lot of it is muscle memory. I mean, you're in control of the airplane, and you want to stay in control until it stops moving. And so you're never going to, your hands are not going to come off of the yoke. You're not going to be turning to anything else. Your thinking really is very linear and very practiced. And it's one of the things that I think is not unique necessarily to aviation, because medicine has its equivalents too, but it's certainly one of the hallmarks of safety in aviation is that we'll fly the airplane all the way through whatever happens. So no, it's not common to have it flip over. It's not common to have the gear strut come off. But if it does, you're going to try to control the airplane the best you can all the way to the end, and that's something you see over and over and over again.
And is it, I'm going to follow up on that, is it a matter of personality, of temperament, training, that you have that focus even in the craziest of moments?
Well, when you consider the way airline pilots are trained, we are trained basically to do everything we possibly can to minimize the variables. That means a lot of procedures and a lot of things that are done the same way all the time. So when something does happen, like for instance a strut, which we're surmising here, we don't know that for sure, came off the airplane, maybe one of the main gear, you only now have a limited ability to control the airplane, but you're going to go concentrate on that because everything else has been set. So it's a very linear way of thinking, and that's the way we get people able to respond in a microsecond to a non-standard situation, is because the standard situations have already been dealt with.
So right now, tell us what's happening emergency-wise. Clearly, trucks there on the scene. I guess there was reports that it was burning. So, what do we have any idea? I guess what caught fire and how are they just mitigating the situation that, you know, nothing blows up, nothing gets bigger? Kind of tell us what emergency crews are doing right now.
Well, basically, emergency crews at this point, having, I'm sure, put out the fire if it was in the engines, would be making sure that something doesn't catch on fire elsewhere on the airplane. They want to keep that airplane as pristine as possible, not just for the accident investigators, but just for safety. But it would be more than likely, the engines and the back end of the airplane that would have presented flames, and that is one of the most one of worrisome aspects of any sort of an accident like this, having a fire. Many times you have seen over the past 30 years when airplanes have burned, everybody got out safely. The skeleton remains of the airplane make it look more horrific than it was because it wasn't burning at that time.
And Sam, I just want to go to that. We've got this statement from the Peel Regional Paramedic Services there, saying 8 people injured, 1 critical with non-life-threatening injuries. The rest are moderate to mild injuries, and all the crew and passengers are accounted for. Paramedics are still at the scene working on transporting people to the hospital. So